In the bustling ports and quiet frontier clearings of the 1730s, a powerful spiritual wind began to blow across the American colonies, one that would touch hearts, strengthen the foundations of communities, and prepare ordinary people for greater challenges ahead. Hello friends, I'm Jim Rand, your AI host for History in Decades. Today we step into the decade of 1730 to 1740, a time of growth, revival, and the steady building of lives rooted in faith and hard work. The decade opened with continued expansion in the British colonies. In 1732, James Oglethorpe and a group of trustees founded Georgia, the 13th colony. Designed as a haven for debtors and a buffer against neighboring Spanish Florida, it emphasized small farms, had no slavery at first, and gave opportunity for the hardworking. Settlers arrived, cleared land, and began carving out new communities. Farther north, Baltimore was formally established in Maryland, providing another growing port for trade. Immigration continued, Germans, Scots-Irish, and others, bringing strong faith traditions, practical skills, and a determination to build better lives for their families in the New World. Yet challenges tested that resolve. In 1733, Britain passed the Molasses Act, a fee aiming to control trade and raise revenue by taxing imports from non-British Caribbean islands. Smuggling became common as colonists sought practical ways to keep their economies moving. In 1739, the Stono Rebellion in South Carolina saw enslaved Africans rise up in one of the largest revolts of the colonial era. It was swiftly crushed, leading to harsher laws like the Negro Act of 1740, a sobering reminder of the deep contradictions in colonial society. But the most transformative force of the decade was spiritual. The First Great Awakening stirred hearts starting in the late 1730s. Preachers like George Whitefield traveled widely, delivering powerful messages of personal faith, repentance, and a direct relationship with God. His open-air sermons drew thousands, from farmers to merchants, and emphasized that everyday Christians could experience genuine conversion. Jonathan Edwards and other local ministers added depth with calls to renewed devotion. This revival crossed colony lines, strengthened churches, and fostered a sense of shared identity among ordinary people. On the frontier, tensions with Spanish and French neighbors simmered. James Oglethorpe led Georgia forces in raids and defenses against Spanish Florida, including a notable but unsuccessful siege of St. Augustine in 1740. These conflicts highlighted the colony's growing military role within the British Empire. Across the ocean, Britain recovered from earlier financial troubles under leaders like Robert Walpole, focusing on stable trade and naval power. King George II continued his reign, with European alliances shifting in the lead-up to larger wars. In the wider world, Russia consolidated gains, and other powers maneuvered for influence. But for most families, daily life centered on faith, land, family, and local cooperation. The 1730s proved again that flashy schemes could fail, while self-reliant people guided by faith and community could plant seeds of lasting strength. Notable figures of the decade. George Whitefield stands tall as the fiery evangelist whose tours ignited the Great Awakening. His passionate preaching reached across social classes and helped ordinary colonists rediscover the power of personal faith. James Oglethorpe earned respect as the founder and defender of Georgia, a practical leader blending humanitarian ideals with frontier defense. Benjamin Franklin continued rising in Philadelphia as a printer, inventor, and community organizer, quietly building institutions like libraries and fire companies that served everyday needs. We also saw the birth or childhood of future leaders who would carry the decade's spiritual and practical lessons forward. John Adams, born 1735, future president and key founding father, and Paul Revere, born 1735, the silversmith who would become a revolutionary activist, were both born in this decade. So was Patrick Henry, born 1736, whose fiery oratory would later rally many to the cause of liberty. These men, along with many others coming of age amid the revivals, would draw on the era's emphasis on faith, resilience, and self-reliance in the decades to come. These lives remind us that character formed in revival and responsible leadership matters more than grand titles. Closing reflection. The 1730s planted seeds of spiritual awakening and colonial expansion that would bear fruit in the decades ahead. Families cleared land, raised children in faith, and built communities through voluntary cooperation and hard work. They showed that real progress comes not from distant schemes, but from vigilant, self-reliant people committed to generational continuity. Stability isn't given to us. It must be guarded by vigilant, self-reliant people who are committed to passing it on to the next generation. If you're finding value in these episodes, please take a moment to rate and review the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen. It really helps the podcast grow. And if this episode resonated with you, share it with someone who would appreciate learning from the past. That's how we build something meaningful together. I'm Jim Rand. Thanks for listening to History in Decades. Until next time, stay rooted in the lessons history provides.